Yo, B man, my fellow airless makes to the blue sea. It's me, man. We back. Chapter 1031. Yeah, I already know what time it is. Soldier of Science. Now, when I read the name of the chapter, I was thinking about SSG, something of that nature. I wasn't even relating Sanji, even though that's where we left off. Just seeing that word and being stuck on stuff like Vegapunk, which we talk about him way too much, but it's just hard not to with certain chapters. And then we open up with Soldier of Science, and I don't know. I didn't know. I just, that's where my mind went. Anyway, the cover. Actually, before we get to the cover, I know I was supposed to talk to y'all earlier this week. That was my bad. I actually had audio for the Devil Fruit and Awakening video, but by the time I had time to post, I had other stuff I had to do. I was like, well, the chapter come out. Oh, well. But we going to be on that Monday and Tuesday for sure, because my schedule changed after today. So tomorrow I might even be talking to you almost every single day next week. That's the plan. So we'll see what's up with that. But just letting y'all know, because we got Supernova to talk about in particular. And then we have Law by himself, especially after this chapter. We got Devil Fruits and Awakenings and Cypher Pole. Those are the four that subject groups that next week I'll be focused on. And there's some stuff, because I've been rereading and watching a lot of stuff lately as far as old anime clips from Punk Hazard and just like the rest of you guys. Even, as a matter of fact, I'll bring it up later. But I don't want to get too sidetracked. Just, I like to keep y'all updated with what's going on so you know when to come back. Now, because we just had a chapter with Killer and Kid and how much I talked about the bond of the right-hand man, this is one of those situations, man. Now we get to the cover chapter. This is what, 3 or 4 cover chapters in the past, maybe almost 2 months now, right? Well, we're at least 3 because we had the Ulti chapter. We have this cover chapter now. Oh, what was the other one? I'll remember later, where I said something kind of, it wasn't necessarily had to do with the plot of the story, and then boom, we get a cover chapter. I make jokes about Oda. How much does he really know about me, man? How much is he listening? Because after everything I said about the right-hand man, we get this cover, and of course, my man, the boy, hailing in from the south side of Shimosuke Village, man, the Senpai of the Santori, right here front and center. The only thing that's questionable about this cover is it's got Beppo on it. Beppo cool. He look cool. He is cool. But to put him, just seeing him right under Rayleigh, y'all already know that's, hey, if that's what Oda thinks, that's what he think. But anyway, we open up with Law Kid, and what we seen from Kid last week, right? And something that we talked about was this interaction between Law and Kid in the flashback, talking about their abilities and would that be an issue later because they may fight each other, and how that will work out because Law has access to magnetism or electricity, and then we see mostly, for the most part, I'm sure there's other stuff he can do, right? Kid is magnetism, which also can control electricity. What Kid said to me was dope because even in the midst and the hype of this fight, he still has the foresight to understand that, yeah, okay, we have the same goal now, but later we won't. I'm not telling y'all on this ability work, Batman. You know what I mean? Because that's what he tried to pull a Batman. And it was smooth. Because if you think about the timing, that's a reasonable question to ask. You're fighting Big Mom. I probably need to know how long that ability works, homie. Kid's like, nah, I don't think so. Not happening, bro. I plan on seeing you a few arcs down. We're not doing that. But I like that because we don't get that a lot from characters in series. Most of the time, they would have blabbed it up already. But then Big Mom getting up and using what I think, y'all know, the soul stealing and the jokes I make about the blobs taking tax money back in Whole Cake Island. Those are the 2 abilities to me that's always seemed like awakening. In comparison to making homies and other stuff that she does, that seems a little bit more in detail. So her getting up after having awakening used on her, it would make sense that the first thing that's what she does to impose her will, right? To the point where she's saying that these scrubs are so trash that it doesn't even help her. Now, I want to know what's going on because she says she'll use 1 year. What exactly does that mean? Because on one note, you can say, okay, it's 1 year of her own life to power herself up because she has access to her own soul. She can manipulate at her will to the point where but here's the thing. All the souls that she's been taking, what's the conversion rate on that? You know what I mean? Like, if she takes 10 people's soul, it might not be as strong as hers, but from a volume standpoint, she still has more souls than she did previously. So I'm really, maybe this is a Viz thing where, of course, we always support the Viz where it makes a little bit more sense, or I want to say I'm overanalyzing, but there's no way that she said that at that time instead of just doing it. Usually when a character says what they're doing instead of just doing it and then explaining it later, or they don't explain it later. For her to bring this up now and the numerous times lifespan and double for powers have been brought up, even though it hasn't come into play yet, I'm sure at some point it actually will matter. It can't keep getting brought up like with Luffy and Ivankov. You know what I mean? In situations like that, in law overusing room back in Dressrosa, we can't keep talking about this if there's not a point to it. So there has to be a reason why she's doing this way, and yeah, it could be just that straightforward, right? And she's using a year of her life is just gone. I just don't understand how that would be the case when she can add to hers. And what would taking a year off even really do at this point for her, even with her being old? Like I said, she's been doing this for 6 decades, man. How many souls is that? She's constantly being given souls. Like the blobs of whole cake. We talk about that all. They're still collecting, man. Uncle Big Mom Sam needs her tax money and she is not playing. So she's always been getting it. I just assumed it was an infinite ability and that if she, like, unimpeded, Big Mom would just at some point, if she did die from old age, it would be around the same age as a giant would, 300 to 400 years. I just kind of always had the thought process with her. So I noticed that. I thought that was pretty interesting. And it kind of reminds you of a Gecko Moria thing, which that's been talked about before with her in regards to her powers. And because she changed her size, I hadn't really noticed her do that. The characters change their size all the time. But other than like Kaido and Onigashima itself, Big Mom always just looks so bigger than everything that it's really just hard for me to tell. But the character's actually stating like, oh no, you've grown in size. And even the smoke in her eyes looks similar to Luffy uses Gear 4th or something like that. Now I know in her case it makes more sense because she uses quote unquote ghost and soul abilities. So that's probably more what it's like, but that's the reminder. It just reminded me of Luffy kind of in a way where I don't want to get too caught up on that, but that's what it reminded me of. But she did look menacing. And then we seen like too, Zeus, Hera, and Prometheus reappeared instantly. Where before, when Laws used his ability, they disappeared immediately. So whatever he did to her, it does work because she was not able to maintain Zeus, Prometheus, Hera, and Napoleon. But it didn't destroy her in a way where she couldn't use that ability anymore. So we know that's not now we know for a fact it doesn't neutralize abilities. At least it may be, if it does, it's just like a second, if that long, something to that degree. But what I do like what Law brings up is something we talk about, because I'm not one of them people. We're not one of them people that has Law as dead camp. We're not in that camp. What's the thing I bring up about Law all the time is y'all probably tired of me saying this point, but Law talks about what? I'll take my place when the time is right. What he said to Beppo. And you think about his whole backstory, his conversation with Sengoku, and then now Robin in front of a Poneglyph of all things. Him bringing this statement up in front of Big Mom saying to get to the truth that he wants to see, he has to be able to take out monsters like her, which is true because she does have access to Poneglyphs. Actually, I think she has 2 if you count the one that Jinbei brought her, whatever one she had prior to that, the same one that Roger stole. That's not the same one that Jinbei brought her. He found it in the sea from the cover story. What I want to know is there foreshadow in some of these statements? One, because it's something I'll talk about with Law on Monday. or Tuesday, like I said. So I'm gonna just tease that and not bring. I'm just bringing it up that there's something there that I'm leaving out on purpose. But the other part of this is, does this tie into his reasoning for going after Kaido? Because of some of the stuff we learned about Kaido this arc, and I'm not talking about his ability. And I'll leave that part at that for now, so you could think about that over the weekend. And then the other thing was, Kid said he didn't care what the cost is. They'll throw away everything away to win. No more holding back, which I thought was cap. I'm like, bro, don't, other than not using the Awaken, don't say you've been holding back, man. It's like, don't do that. Don't be that guy, right? You guys just ain't that guy. Law is closer to that guy than you are, but one for one, neither one of you are that guy in front of my. Not in my opinion yet. And Law is one of my favorite characters, but it's just nah. So I'm like, even in his head, Kid be on some just mad cap, the Mad Hatter, man, straight out of Disney, just like Big Mom. Like, this dude is wild. But what I was also interested in is him saying that he stated he didn't care what it cost. Is that because at some point life sport is going to have to matter in the series, either through Big Mom's ability, the interaction with Luffy and Ivankov, the situation with Law back in Dressrosa, and how Devil Fruit abilities will work, and some of the ideas out there about what they do to you or your soul, of course. And then we have a character with a soul fruit. At some point they're going to matter. The situation with Pedro, who's going to die anyway, because he already lost some lifespan. And, the same thing with Jinbei. We thought, like, oh, he was going to have to spin the wheel and make a deal. or be fish sticks, literally. But that seemed not to happen as far as we know yet. Now, in the case of Law, she might try to take lifespan from him, because I think she would find his powers more of a threat than Kid's. And, that's something we've been talking about forever, right? The matchup between Law and Big Mom in particular. Maybe she does pull a Pain. I mean, like I said before, with the awakening part of her ability, she's got them Shinigami eyes. And with Kid stating that he said he doesn't care what it costs, maybe he does lose some himself. Sometimes I refer to the Yonko the same way I refer to Orochimaru, the boy Jiraiya and Tsunade, fighting Hanzo the Salamander King, where surviving the Yonko just might be their dub. They might not be able to overpower them. They might be able to go to 12th round and lose by a decision from the judges, but the overpowering part is going to be rough. Not impossible, it's just going to be rough. So I did want to bring that part up, because there might be some funny stuff within them statements, even though we didn't focus on that for the chapter. Now, Apu, I asked last week, because it was ambiguous. Apu was like, man, Trey, I got you. I'm rocking with Kaido, man. At least unless he's got me fooled, where he's lying inside his own head, right? Because we knew Drake wasn't gonna rock with him, so now they're fighting, which is what I thought was gonna happen anyway. Most people probably thought that, but what Drake said is interesting, because we talked about the spy thing last week, and yes, I don't necessarily think Apu knows Drake's sword. But what Drake says is very similar, like a type of statement that Smoker or Fujitora would say when it comes to repaying the Straw Hats. That's a very uncommon phrase in the series from a main type character. We get that from arc characters of the location of the people that live there. We'll give you food at the end, repay you, or, stuff like that. But we don't get main characters talking about repaying the Straw Hats that aren't the situation with the Scabbards. That's right. That's a totally different situation. But other characters, especially somebody supposed to be a rival. So that part threw me off, where, Drake, we already know is in Sword, but it did remind me of something that, as much as Smoker don't like the pirate situation, just like with Law and Virgo, he knows sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to get these guys up on out of here. And Smoker didn't have no problem saying that he wasn't the reason why things went the way they did, and gave credit to the Straw Hats, where like even somebody like X-Drake, who's in Sword, still wants to give credit to the Straw Hats, even though we know he don't like pirates. So that conflict is interesting to me as a whole, because having that kind of honor for people that you don't necessarily like what they represent, is similar to Fujitora is slightly different, but Smoker definitely, because he has the same mentality as X-Drake as far as how it's portrayed, how much they don't like pirates in it as a whole. Not a Akainu level where it's just Magma Fist all day, but I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just who he reminded me of, Fujitora and Smoker. And Apu, it's crazy, right? Because, how can I put this? All right, for one, Drake figured out his ability, which is interesting because I never correlated his ability to him seeing anything. I was so focused on sound, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, because Drake says your line, talks about Apu's line of sight, and then you think back to the times where he chooses his ability. Even then, it's kind of odd because sometimes when he beats his chest, he's looking upward, and I know at least once or twice I've seen him do that, and he couldn't see. So I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter by the time if he's already looked at you when he goes to beat his chest to use an attack. But I thought that was dope because that means, not that it's a shocker, because we just assume most, whether it's stated or not, most decent characters, right, have some level of observation Haki where he's using observation Haki with a sound ability. And I that part about Apu using his ability, I thought was pretty dope. He's still trash or whatever. I did feel him though, trying to sign Yamato real quick. He tried to slide to her DMs. He saw the yams was in Yamato. He saw her from the side. It was like, man, this X-Drake thing, forget having somebody on my team. Hey, Yamato, come holler at me. Let me rap with you. He even says, let me rap with you. I know Apu is supposed to be similar to Killer B in some ways, right? Which is kind of funny. It makes him likable, but it's just, he don't do enough for me to feel that he's on that level. But lately, man, it just seems like he has access to information and he might be smarter than I've been giving him credit for. I still don't know why he has this fixation on the numbers. That part's kind of odd to me because the numbers don't really seem all that threatening. Something though that was kind of weird, right? When Yamato busts into the room to begin with, who's saying Young Master Yamato? Is that really Apu saying that? Because he's facing X-Drake. Not that he couldn't see her out the side of his eye or nothing, but just the speech bubble being on the far left. Even though we know the numbers only say their names for so far, that I don't know. It's like, why would the number recognize Yamato? I mean, I guess they would by default because they work for Kaido in a way. Before this, whatever Apu got going on with the numbers. That's really odd to me. Especially when one of them, Fuga, when Apu's running, trying to slide in her DMs, like I said, he seen her from the side. It was like, yo, he tried to call that Kobe ISO. Let me get you over here for a second and holler at you. Yamato's not having it, of course. But then that's what we find out inside of Apu's head, like, oh, well, she's not working with Kaido? Well, I am. Where last week it sounded ambiguous to me, the way he was wording it, if he actually does rock with Kaido. By that statement, it kind of tells me that he really does. What I want to know is, what did Apu think was important enough that Yamato would have heard what he said, or at least took the time to listen to him? Was that just a tactic to catch her attention, or did he actually have real information on something that she might want to hear, since Yamato's has cut ties with Kaido? And falling back on last week, the discussion about, does he know is Drake a regular spy, or does he know about Sword? And on top of that, does he know ships are on the way? Is that what this is talking about? Because he's one of these characters like Orochi, where he wants out of Wano, and he doesn't know he'll do anything to get out of here. That's what I was thinking about. And like I said, I think it makes me think the number recognized her, because even when he did that attack, it didn't really seem like it was trying. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm overanalyzing, but because Apu was confused on what the number guy did, the Fuga one, the one that looked like San Juan Wolf from the Blackbeard Pirates, he seemed confused about that situation. I'm like, why he would do that? I don't know. Like I said, maybe y'all seen something. Let me know, or maybe I'll see later. Somebody in the community noticed something that I didn't. But The funny part was X-Ray got low diffed. Yamato just steamrolled him, and you guys know I talk about how Yamato is not a malicious character, even when she's fighting. Like, she steamrolled Drake and was still polite, like, oops, my bad. I gotta get going. Here, take one of these Derrick Henry, Marshawn Lynch, take one of these Jim Brown, Walter Payton stiff arms, or take one of these and go to sleep. And she just kept it pushing like you weren't even there. That was cool to me. Then we get to Robin and Brooke. You already know, Cypher Pole time. We already knew, and then you see one of the Cypher Poles missing. They went, so there's just them two. The other one probably went after Who's Who. It only makes sense, especially the way they was talking, like they were just low diff Who's Who anyway. So it's not like you need both of them. Now, why both of them go after Robin and Brooke? Maybe that's just to make sure they don't get away. We obviously know that they're strong, but there's no way we would have put them on Cypher Pole level. These dudes are like the Akatsuki. They roam around on their own. These cats been running back and forth to Wano, and who else knows? Baltigo, Dressrosa, they just go wherever they feel like going, and nothing happens to them. So that wasn't we've been talking about this even way before we saw Robert D. Gucci McLucci. We already knew there was no way the world government was passing up an opportunity on Robin. No way in the story that would have made sense for any character. Nobody would have believed that for a second. So to see them like on some Royal Rumble, just tossing scrubs in the trash through the fire, they finna go to work. And again, I'm going to bring up the situation with Who's Who and Jinbei because we know how strong now, a little bit more, Rokushiki really is, where it bypasses we won't say he's the strongest in the verse, but Jinbei is definitely up there to the point where he could at least toe-to-toe with somebody like a Big Mom on the solo for a little bit. And has the physical strength to move her, regardless of what her state was at the time. But we know enough about Jinbei where Ace couldn't beat him either. I kind of could, but that's a guy who kind of almost killed everybody. But other than that, we know we have an idea on what that level is supposed to be. And I just Robin just finished a fight with another character that we wouldn't even assume has a chance against just like one Cypher Pole cat, the Derby hat Cypher Pole guy, and Dr. Seuss mass Cypher Pole guy. We wouldn't expect that. It's just not happening. I think they hopefully run into the Big Mom fight somehow, and because Big Mom wants to take Robin too, that might cause some chaos to get away from the Cypher Pole because they're just not. We know they're not. It's not happening. You seen that So Rude, man. That dude, they walking through fire and all of that. Come on, man. They don't even care about the Cosmo or the regular fire that's burning up the castle. They want Robin and they coming for Robin. We don't see what's cracking with it. Derby Hat Cypher Pole guy has to be beat. He has to be beastly. He has a Derby hat, man. Oh yeah, something I remember randomly. You always know I'm watching old episodes, especially when I'm rereading the series and stuff. Having to do with Law. Remember when Law fought Virgo? I just seen this, like I said, yesterday morning and realized it. All I thought about was Chemo, man, because after he did the epic dab, right, or whatever you want to call it, right, during the Breaking the Gear speech, Virgo attacks him again while he's cut in half. And I'm like, oh, Kaido. It just, now that I've said that, when you go back and you watch Punk Hazard or just that clip in general, you won't be able to unsee that situation with Chemo now. It was ruined for me, so now you gotta suffer too. Just thought I'd throw it in there. Now, obviously, we always say the best for last when it comes to the crazy stuff, right? Because we got Sanji and Queen still going at it, but Sanji had took off running. Something happened. Now, the one thing I know, there's no way everybody noticed this. I know they did. I don't even have to check yet. I know everybody noticed his eyebrow flipping from left to right like that. Is that going to mean anything? There's no way it doesn't, right? That's a part of his character to begin with. So there's just no way that's not important. Everybody, I know they did. I know, I'll see. But to me, it's just funny that they're at a brothel and supposedly Sanji hit a woman. And if you know about that lifestyle, I'm like, well, technically that's just employee retraining. You know, I'm not about what he did, but if we're talking about that area, because this is a brothel, and that life, y'all know what time it is, man. I know y'all was like, man, ugh. Sanji went from Simp Smoke Sanji to he went from Simps to Pimps real quick. Like he gave her one. If he really did this, he gave her one of those. You're for the streets. Like I don't know if he did it or not. It could be just she was scared. You know, a lot of times when Sanji busts down doors or he jumped through a room or something and he kicks a door through, it could be like she got hurt like that, or maybe he clashed with Queen or something, or related something else. I'm not saying he couldn't have did this, because if he actually did do this, and he laid her out, gave her the boo bap, the 2-piece and a biscuit with some honey on the side, then that means Judge's technology surpasses what Moria's fruit did to Sanji back in Thriller Bark. Because they made it, remember, I don't know if it was Cindy, I think that was her name, Hogback's assistant. One of the characters made or maybe it was I forgot which one in Thriller Bark, but one of them made a statement about there was a chivalrous dog. Something having to do with not wanting to do anything to women, where even with a fruit ability is taking control of his body, he was still able to still be himself in a sense, even in quote unquote zombie form. If this bypasses this genetic alteration, what Sanji is really overcoming is something spectacular, because like that's already a hard pill to swallow, right? What he was worried about losing, because even though for some people it's probably like, oh, whatever, think about it in terms of the Straw Hats. If Sanji has the type of moment where maybe this actually happened, now apply that to Robin or Nami, who's already made huge statements. Remember back in Whole Cake Island, I'll never trust you again. Remember that? That might end up being a problem later, where maybe he does boo bap Nami. She gave him one too many happiness punches, and he... and then what? What does that do to the dynamic of the crew? Does that something where Nami walks away over? If Sanji beat her up on the ship, that's changing everything. Especially knowing that he beat up Luffy and what happened to Whole Cake. I don't know. This may be just one of those things where it's not a big deal, and it was some other nonsense, or this is part of Black Lyria's illusion ability, and she's actually not knocked out. Maybe it's something crazy like that. That's really all I could think of. But we gonna see, man, because that's out there, But him being able to think about, well, what's the type of person I gotta be for Luffy? I'll pick either one, similar to what Robin said. But when once he lit that cigarette, and I talked about that last week, you knew Sanji was shook, because he didn't even smoke a cigarette, and that's the longest we really seen him go without a cigarette in those type of situations. The last time we seen him like that was put in Whole Cake Island. So whatever resolve he's trying to come to, this is, for him, it's a big deal. And, Oda knows some of the narratives of the characters. And he finds, even with useless D-mid stuff, right? He had Law calling Kid trash a couple of chapters ago, just like we do. Then we have Sanji finally talking about not being able to fight women and words cause problems for everybody, right? Just like we do. Well, he's not doing that for no reason. So in my mind, he's probably already made a change for him, or something's going to happen out of this. There's no way. Saying farewell to invisibility and then the Germa. I just think it's odd, though, that when he supposedly, quote unquote, vanishes, that panel was written in black with white writing as opposed to normal text. And I don't know if that's a Shuri reference, because I can't remember if he did that the same way. And if this is like when people turn invisible, it's written that way. Well, it might not even matter, but I just thought that was kind of crazy, because even before then, when he's having a flashback, not remember what happened to the lady, the whole left eye thing that I talk about, with Zoro and Luffy and Sanji all have the left eye thing. And that's when I noticed even more, like, his eyes covered. You can't see it at all. And then we see the switch and then him having the flashback. And it's like, okay, he wants us to see this. And this is what's going on with him right now. To the point where he'll call Zoro, my man, hailing it from the south side of Shimosuke Village. The Salt Pirates not through you, man. Because he knows if you want a job done, if you want it done, you call the right hand man. The man on the cover. You know what I mean? He already knows. Sanji is Sanji, but he knows what time it is with Zoro, especially after what happened during Nothing Happened. Y'all already know that's my profile picture. That was one of the hardest moments in the series, even still to this day, for both of them. That's where kind of like my attitude about them in general, that's where it comes from. That moment right there, to me, signifies everything that they are. Sanji's a simp, but when it comes to taking care of business, we already know what time it is with him. He does what he got to do, even if it's going to cost us something. He makes bad decisions. But so does the rest of the crew. How's that any different? It's just that his got a whole arc of focus. So it's a little bit different, right? It's just something that comes with learning. So for Zoro to answer the way he did, one, he was flexing on King, like, I'm going to talk on the phone and fight you. We see King is in the air flying, shooting projectiles of some sort. Then he did the same attack he used on Sanji, and we see him blocking King while talking on the phone, on the Dan to Sanji. I thought that was kind of hype. What I don't like is when Sanji first called Zoro, and I brought this up last week about Hubris being in Zoro's panel, when Sanji says, we're going to beat the Beast Pirates, Zoro says, well, obviously. You see what I meant last week? I don't like that he did that. It wasn't geared towards Zoro, but why did Hubris have to be in his panel and then here's Zoro with Hubris? Whether that means something later, I don't know. But Zoro's saying, I look forward to cutting you down. He's been waiting, man. He's been waiting at least 2 years to do it. He will. But between the white hot thing and him vanishing, not needing the suit, because it already did its job and which is something that we talked about. I just thought he was going to keep it, but it being gone is cool too with me. It's just, I don't know how it's going to change the Sora comics or anything like that, or Frankie or Usopp's interaction. So we'll see what's up, man. I have fun. We're going to be talking Monday and Tuesday about a lot of stuff for a show at the Bear Man. Y'all be safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. Some of y'all I'll see probably in a few hours right online somewhere. You know what time it is, man. But I think that's about it, man, for now. Yeah, I don't want to keep y'all too long. Thanks for stopping by. Come back in one piece.